Hello, welcome to today's HR Huddle. Jen and I have been traveling and vacationing, and I don't know what else. Our team has been busy with projects, and we know we've been talking to future leaders and HR leaders and partner groups, the same as for you guys this summer. So we thought we would spend this last day of July, a month into the second half of 2023. What are we hearing, from HR leaders? How do we kind of maybe refocus, recenter on what the remainder of 2023 looks like? And we have some musings, some things that we're watching and seeing, some things that maybe HR leaders are asking us about that might be on your radar. You might be wondering about, or maybe you need to pick back up. So we just have some kind of just different thoughts to share with you. And Jen, I don't know if there's any place you want to start or anything you want to add to that setup before we jump into some specifics there.
Well, I think the setup's great. We've certainly talked to a lot of HR leaders. We've also visited a lot of firms, been with a lot of our leadership groups. Graduated a leadership group this morning of managers, senior managers, and newer partners. Heard from 26 or so of them about their journey in the last 12 months and sort of where they feel like they are right now. And Tamera, you and I did a webinar today. You and I did a webinar, 3 weeks ago. One of the questions we asked are, what are the biggest issues facing your firm in a poll? Both times, staffing shortages or, the need for talent came up to the top. And that's not surprising. We certainly have been talking about that for a long time now in our profession. And so we just thought we'd check in with you because fall's coming. We have this last gasp of potential proactivity with our, our busy season people that'll disappear into busy season and maybe not make a bunch of change or a bunch of decisions during that time. But maybe we have a little bit here, 6 weeks or so, ladies and gentlemen, that we could potentially get refocused on some initiatives or push the ones we're already focused on a little bit harder to get some of the change made. And that includes, we're talking to folks that have offshoring. They might have been dabbling in it a little bit, but they're going to go a little bit further, or they're just starting their first test. Outsourcing, using outsourced contract labor, non-CPA hiring. We're making lots of connections between our folks that we know that are really making hay with non-CPAs being added to the work stream. So that's really happening, and folks are starting to get excited about testing it for this fall, but certainly gearing up to have that in place for spring. So those are just three things I know we're hearing, firms working on right now.
Yeah, and I would add the other piece to it, kind of what you're talking about, Jen, is like, how do we round out, our talent circle? I know the traditional, layers that we've talked about, it's not going away, but it's more difficult to be filling in those layers, the intern staff, seniors, et cetera. But the offshoring, the non-CPA, work streams, the outsourcing, every single firm that we talk to that is doing something with it is like, we should have done it a lot sooner and we should do a lot more of it. Even when there's learning that's happening, even when it's not perfect, it's like, we can see where we need to invest and dedicate resources. That's one thing from an HR perspective is you've got to treat those people as a team and include them in your team meetings and communications, your client kickoffs, things like that. Making sure they're set up on the technology, your processes. So treating them, like a team member, I think is critical. But that's something you can pilot if you really haven't, dipped your toe in it yet. Pilot it during the extension season or this fall in some of your teams. That might be something to do. And then the other piece of that, I think that, rounds that off is the automation and technology. And, what can we be doing to create efficiencies? The lean processes, but also just that whole automation of, some of your audit processes or your tax processes or just, whatever that might be. And that will create capacity. That's one of the things that I think, Jen, we heard from those young leaders today, those next gen leaders is, we are creating capacity and we're trying some of those things. And that's huge. So I think that's important. And I think tied to that is, continuing to delegate and really, trust your people and teaching your like middle managers and your partners to trust people and let go and really create that capacity. It's interesting. Maybe it's surprising that it's surprising how much people really can take on when we hear people really do that. When we hear, middle managers or newer partners or even experienced partners trusting their next gen. That's one of the things that we always communicate to them when they're in our leadership program. I came back from a program last week and I, emailed the managing partners and I said, they were fabulous. And the number one thing you can do is trust them and let go and let them try things. And so if we could do that more, break it down. It's not like abdicating. It's not like I'm, throwing up my hands and throwing you in the deep end of the pool. I've got that life preserver. I'm there with you, but I'm not in it with you. I'm going to let you take it and run and break it down into those pieces, teach the context, teach the setup. But that's been huge. And they're like, we actually do have more capacity if we start to do that.
For sure. I was just thinking, Tamera, like there's this fine line between I give you too much and I burn you out, and I give you too little and you're bored, or I give you the wrong level.
Right.
And I don't let you work at a higher level because I don't trust you, or I'm too busy to teach you, or whatever my story is. So you just think, is this all there is? Is it always going to be like this? And the boredom sets in, or the lack of, the feelings like I'm not being developed, I'm not growing. And so we can be our own worst enemy by holding on to those opportunities and those things, and creating this, we don't want to push so much on people that they can't bear the weight of it, but we also don't want to withhold. And if they're stuck with a big pile that isn't at their level, it's below their level, we have to figure out how to open up capacity below their level and let that stuff go, or they won't stay. That's the thing. So if we want to motivate and maintain and engage and keep these folks, we've got to challenge them in the appropriate way and let them try things, and not just client work and not just technical work, although those are both very important things, but also these internal initiatives and change ideas. They're dying to do them, man. And if they saw that you would be open to letting them, I was with a group 2 weeks ago, and one of the outcomes of that, we did managers all day one, and then managers and partners day two. And one of the outcomes of the second day was the formation of an innovation group. One partner, kind of a next gen partner, is going to be the sponsor, but somebody else is going to lead it that's a non-partner. And they quickly formed that with a group of people who have a lot of change ideas, and it was exciting. And you could feel the energy in the room really building, like maybe we're going to get somewhere. The partners are empowering this innovation committee, and they're going to let us make these changes, or try them at least. And so that was kind of cool. And I do think that's part of it, is that idea of letting go, not just letting go of like tasks, but letting go of control a little bit.
Yes.
The market is galloping off. It's not just moving a little bit, it's galloping with all the changes that are happening in technology and demographics and just, marketplace changes. It's just unbelievable. And we can't allow our firms to work, change at a snail's pace. Right. We have to allow at least a trot, of change or something,
Otherwise, that stampede is going to run you over. If you're like walking or trotting, it's going to come and run you over.
Yeah. So the other thing, Tamera, is when we talk about, talent and trying to find more capacity for folks and try non-traditional talent ideas, I'm starting to get questions from people reading in the press about delayering or layoffs happening, and thought we should probably address that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's good. I know that's a concern. Is it's mixed. It's like how are they laying off when we're almost every single firm we talk to, we hear from them. Talent is still the number one challenge. Where can we find talent? We heard it today. We've heard it in the retreats we've been at and conferences. And mostly what we're seeing is that it's big four. In larger firms, but mostly big four, that are layering off, or they're using this term, delayering. They're getting rid of like that middle level layer. A lot of it is on the advisory side or non-CPA side, as they're trying to figure out, their advisory and consulting practices, and what that looks like, and where they want to be in the market. We're not seeing big layoffs in tax, audit, client accounting, those areas. And so that's probably something, to make sure you're talking to your partners about, but also if there's murmurings about that, out there in the teams and the ranks, to, manage that message. We always say, if you don't manage the message, it'll manage you. And so if you've got murmurings about it, you might want to get ahead of that.
For sure. And the thing is that, if there's an economic slowdown, we're all monitoring it. We're all watching it. We know we're working in an irrational, economic market, but we're also experiencing demographics that we've never had before. None of us really knows what to expect, but so far, most of the economic signals are positive.
Right.
And we know that right now clients need us more than they ever have before. I don't talk to a single firm where the partners or the managers won't admit to being afraid to go out and spend a material amount of time with clients, talking about hopes, dreams, fears, and doubts over lunch in an out of cycle meeting, because they know they'll come back with more work and they don't feel like they have the capacity for that additional work. And there's nothing any of us wants to do more than meet with our clients and have those deeper conversations. And so we still have to build out our staffing model in order to have the capacity at the higher levels, at the manager and up levels, to be able to go deeper, especially with our A clients. And so, we need to not get too paranoid. Some might try to resist change by saying, well, wait a minute, I'm reading in the trades that there's this delayering thing. Maybe we shouldn't try non-CPAs, or maybe we shouldn't do this offshore thing. And if that were an objection I were encountering in my firm, I would just say, hey, we have to keep innovating and we have to keep staffing till we feel like we have too many people. And right now the profits show that we are, certainly not overstaffed. And, the client needs are still not being met to the level we'd like them to be met. So let's keep innovating. Let's keep trying things.
Yes. I think another place, we're still seeing M&A activity. And that's one place that we are seeing some firms have access to maybe a talent pool because of mergers that have happened in their areas or in their disciplines or specialty areas, where, if I'm going to go merge into a new firm, it's a little bit like, trying out or applying for a new position and learning about that firm, learning about what the new role is, learning about what all the benefits are. But also there's the whole cultural shift. Where do I fit now? Often in a larger organization. So now what's my opportunity in those larger organizations? And so, there's a lot of reflection happening, especially at those middle levels, managers, senior managers, et cetera, but at all levels. And so that's one place, to really make sure you're paying attention to, what are the opportunities there, as those mergers and acquisitions might be happening again in your area or in your industry areas or specialties, that there might be potential. But we're hearing some potential, and that HR professionals and partners are really paying attention to that as well.
And Tamera, I think what you're referring to is, if I haven't merged, but we see these other folks being absorbed, there may be recruiting opportunities.
Yes.
At a minimum, to stay close to the manager, senior supervisors, that middle group you're missing, because that middle group will likely shed off some. It's very typical for in a merger to lose a certain percentage of staff in the first year to 2 years and a certain percentage of clients. And, they may not be ideal staff or clients, so you want to be careful to screen carefully, but to stay close to those that your team members have relationships, and let them know that you have interest, so that if they find that they don't fit or they don't like what they're learning, they can see other opportunities. I think that's great advice. And then for firms that are in the process of that merger integration, just to really pay attention and make sure that you have sort of a person to person defense happening, especially on the highest potential, brightest talent that you're merging in. You want to make sure that somebody's flanking them and staying close to them and answering their questions and meeting and asking how they feel, because we see a lot of really good people sort of get lost in the new bigger organization for a while. And while they're lost, they're thinking, man, this isn't what I originally signed up for. And now I don't feel as special as I did. And I'm not sure I should stay. And that's when you're pretty vulnerable, I think. So, kind of both sides of that coin to be thinking about from a talent perspective.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think, Jen, I'm hearing a lot of success about the intern programs this year. And firms have really been beefing that up, maybe being more intentional, maybe going to high schools and freshmen and sophomores in colleges, and going to maybe colleges and community colleges and other places that um, maybe you can be unique as a firm and not competing with the big four, the top big firms in your area, kind of finding your niche. But firms that are doing that, we've just heard success and good reputation then back to those universities and colleges. Making offers earlier, some of those things that we've been talking about doing also, getting creative about what your intern roles look like, remote intern roles, non-busy, intern roles, just figuring out what those kinds of experiences are. But then being able to keep those interns along through their college years, and then making those offers, they take those offers as new staff. Now I know sometimes young people can be fickle and they get exposed to other things, but I don't know about you, Jen, but I've just been hearing that firms have really kind of revamped maybe their intern programs and having some success with that, and getting kind of very laser focused about what their messaging is and where they're targeting those young people.
Yeah, Tamara, and I love what you said about giving, paying attention to the experiences that
Mm-hmm.
the interns are getting. I think that's a crucial component of it. I like that intentionality idea. Internships got a little weird during the pandemic. People were unsure about what to do. Some firms were immediately clear that they were going to run remote internships, and they were maybe clearer about their messaging and the experiences, but it's been kind of a weird last 3 years, let's say, in managing those programs. And so we saw a lot of firms get really focused on saying, hey, we need more and better interns. We need to be able to translate them into full-time hires. We're not having the conversion rate that we really want. Let's dig in and think about that. And I've had a couple of cool experiences with internship programs this year. One of them was about a month ago or so, and it was a firm that was going to have their interns work together on an innovation project. And they had a bunch of consultants to the profession come and talk to the interns on Zoom, and talk about different aspects of change that are happening, and allow the interns to ask questions. And then they all went off together and picked one innovation project and are in the process of launching that now. And they're going to drive some change in the firm as a result of this project, which is exciting for the interns and probably a little scary for the rest of the firm, thinking, oh, the interns have taken over, stormed the castle or whatever, and they get to make a change. But, it's like an outside consulting group, a next gen outside consulting group doing this change initiative as part of their program. And I just thought it was a great idea. And, again, conscious experiences for those folks. Tamara, another thing that we're hearing about from HR folks that are, planning kind of the second half, they're going back to alumni. And, we would say rehirable alumni, and they're doing some outreach to those folks on a one-to-one basis to check in and say, how's life out there? And especially, we tell them always, think about the people that, they're like the one that got away, the one that you shake your head and you close your eyes and you feel a little sick when you think about the fact that they left you and you lost them. Those are the people to call and just check in with, because who knows what they're experiencing out there and whether they'd be interested in coming back. We tell young people all the time, if you're frustrated with the pace of change and you're frustrated with your leadership, and you think your leaders are too traditional, that it's kind of hard to go out in America and find a bunch of non-traditional leaders elsewhere. I'm not saying that there are. In startups, there are certainly. And, in certain organizations, you could find a next-gen group doing super cool next-gen things. But most entities, you're going to just jump from one group that's trying to figure out how to unlock the change formula at their place to the next group that's trying to figure that out, how to sell change. And so we just try to get people to really think maybe the grass isn't greener. And sometimes it is. So we know that and we support that, but often it isn't. And that's where the alumni program comes in, where you're focused from a recruiting perspective on people who probably realize that they're standing on the same color of green grass, that they were on when they were with you, and they might be open to connecting. We've also seen a few firms that over time have created formal alumni mixers and social activities and gotten their alumni together. And alumni are a great source, not just for potential talent in themselves. They might refer talent if they knew what you were looking for. They also, and the big four have known this, and the large firms have known this forever, they often go to work at prospective clients. And so taking the time to do an alumni mixer before the end of the year as both a staffing and a potential business development activity might be of interest to some of you.
Love that. That's awesome. And Jen, maybe to wrap up, one idea that might sound obvious, it's a little bit after mid-year, is, reevaluate what your goals and priorities are for the end of the year. And I would say that for the HR initiatives that you're working on, get with your team and make sure what you said you were going to get done this year is really what the priorities are today. Manage expectations, reset expectations if you need to do that. Make sure your team, what they have on their plate are the right priorities, feels doable, realistic. It's the right things again. And then also, we work with firms, on partner goal setting and mid-year check-ins, and then, your team's, goal settings and what the second half of the year is. And just make sure everybody knows, like, what are their top 3 things they're focusing on the next, 5 months. And, what does that look like? And that we communicate that out, because otherwise we make up, first of all, what it is. And if we set some expectations, maybe at the beginning of the year or the end of last year for 2023, things change, things come up, new opportunities come up, things change inside of our team or our clients. And so it's just a good time to revisit what those are and then communicate those back out, so we're all on the same page, supporting each other with what those goals are. And I don't have this pressure. We have these pressing things, and maybe Jen and I would talk and I'm like, I don't think that's important anymore, and she's like, okay, great, thank you, or we'll say that to our team, and then we can communicate that out to everybody else, so they stop looking forward or wondering about it or whatever it might be. So for your HR team, for the partners, for the rest of the team, get with your career coaches. You talk to them about making sure in the next month or so we talk about what does fall look like and what are their top priorities for fall.
I love it. Makes perfect sense.
Yep. So great to be with you. Great, Jen. I think this is good for us to kind of, circle back and, just kind of look at, where we've been so far in 2023, what's, left in the remainder of the year. We hope you have success. We hope you enjoy what's left of your summer, and we will be with you next week, I think. So have a great one. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks all.
Bye.